Hey everyone, Inkwelder here for some casual webcam magic over the Legacy Magic paper Discord. And so I get to face this funky Dreadnought brew that Adam was playing. He's pretty big in the painter community, so I thought it might be a mirror when I saw him. But Dreadnought. Learned so much from this game, and it's why I'm so thankful to be able to jam some games over webcam sometimes casually. You just end up taking a lot of lessons. So my opening hand, not broken or busted, but totally reasonable, especially if it's the mirror, because I've got fast mana and I've got grindstone, but 2 mountain tomb will let me cast Karn, which I'm testing out, and I've got Fury to clean up some things, and I'll be able to play that hopefully on like turn 3 if I need it. So Karn currently in my wish board. I don't have a very large wish board because I don't want to like have a bunch of wishes that come up if I draw Karn versus shoring up my worst matchups. So like I still like having Magus of the Moon and Mindbreak Trap and Fairy Macabre, but my Karn wish board, I've got Chaos Defiler, I've got Mycosynth Lattice, Liquid Metal Coating, and Pithing Needle. Those are my only 4 targets. And so my opponent here used Ancient Stirrings and found an Urza Saga, and clearly is like well suited to make constructs. I jam Karn. I had to think about it just to make sure, right? I'm gonna plus on his diamond first. That'll allow me to survive an attack from the constructs. And so I do let him float. He forgot to float. I let him float. And this is going to be my first big error. So he Beseju. Beseju's my grindstone. I get a Badlands, which is good. But right now I'm really just thinking about Mycosynth Lattice or Liquid Metal Coating because that's such a classic Karn thing. But I'm not considering that I should go wish for Pithing Needle and Needle Beseju because I know it's in my opponent's deck. Albeit I haven't seen a way for him to get it back, but he is going to play Life from the Loam pretty soon. So he needles Karn, which is tricky because I specifically need Painter Red Blast or I need a Goblin Welder to swap the needle for the diamond. So I would like to unlock Karn because he obviously can generate a lot of value. I don't have much of a board presence right now, which is never what I like, right? So I need to use Karn as my board presence, and he has a bunch of board presence. So I did draw a Painter this turn, and so I name blue, and I immediately Red Blast the needle. Get rid of the needle. Now those dudes are 2/2s, those constructs, and I can Fury them away perfectly. works out beautifully. But this is where I really should wish, do a wish and get my own needle on that Beseju. Now that I know that he had cast Loam and got the Beseju back, would be the best play here is just wish. And instead I wish for Lattice, and it's just with Beseju in my opponent's hand, getting the needle and playing it on Beseju right away, I probably win the game. He can pump out Urza Saga constructs, sure, but I'm going to Lattice him eventually, and his sagas won't work anymore. And so I need to protect the Lattice. I sped this game up a lot because it did take a while. It's a long game, and it's a very close game also. But I think that I win a lot faster, just a fast line here. He tries to Ancient Stirrings, and I remind him that Painter turns it off. So I just let him undo that. We're playing, obviously, a lot of this playing is for testing, right? You want to see how the matchup goes when people are playing really well. I'm making mistakes, he's making mistakes. It's not typical necessarily for paper, but we really want to see how our decks do, and we're not trying to get a W here. So they find Mycosynth Gardens and play a Dreadnought, and now they have a 12/12 monster, and I have a Painter, so I need Red Blast to get rid of that. I plus Karn because he was at 1. And I play Lattice, which is stupid because my opponent has 2 mana untapped. So when I cast Lattice, they just floated 2 mana, and then they Beseju the Lattice. So I'm sure he's thinning my deck. That's really nice. But yeah, not really tight play. If I had just gotten Needle and then this turn plus Karn, I'm still playing to my same outs. I have Defiler in the sideboard, right, that I can wish for Defiler to get rid of the Dreadnought. But yeah, he's loaming back the Beseju and the Garden. So if he wants, he can play Gardens and make another 12/12 if he wants. But I am at 14, so it's not like fixing the clock necessarily. He does mill a Hushbringer, which Hushbringer is annoying. I didn't realize, 1, it flies. 2, it turns off Defiler dying. So a lot of people will play Torpor Orb against Painter, and that's fine. You can. It's decent. It's not the best, but it's decent against half the deck. But Torpor Orb doesn't turn off Defiler dying. It turns off Defiler coming into play. But Hushbringer turns off both sides. So I wish and kill Karn. I wish for Defiler because I must get rid of that Dreadnought because I just took 12. And then he goes and he Besejus the Defiler. So even though he doesn't have a board, he's got a Saga that he's able to keep pumping out constructs on. And I don't have much action right now. So he tries to Ancient Stir again, and I tell him, nope, too ancient. And he also flipped over a Bog when he dredged Loam. And so now he's got a Bog to hit and get rid of my my Defiler if... so he said go and then decided to Loam, so that's fine. And so, yeah, he gets back the Bog. So now I know he has Bog in his hand, and I play the Welder, which is going to now force him to use Bog. And I play Painter. And really what I'm hunting for here is, like, Red Blast is great. My Nile Spellbomb is great because it'll stop these, like, Beseju shenanigans. I honestly don't know if I would get rid of the Beseju or the Loam. Like, they're both very annoying in this late in the game. But Grindstone wins me the game just like that. So yeah, definitely a lot of live draws. He can make constructs, and he goes and he fetches Currency Converter, which I'm at 2, so I'm gonna have to keep blocking. But the fact that I have a Welder, right, I can sort of block, and then before damage, I can swap Painters. So that's a way for me to, like, stay alive in perpetuity. But he casts Hushbringer, and even though he's attacking, the Hushbringer is a clock. I don't have Breya in my deck because I cut Breya for Karn. So that's not saying that Karn is not good and you should play Breya for this situation, but it's just that I know that's not a live draw for me anymore. Even if I draw Karn, there's other considerations that I have. Like I probably would just wish for coding in this case because my wish board is now pretty dry. It's got coding and that's it. I wished for Lattice and Defiler, and I would have gotten Needle. Needle still would have been the best thing for me to wish for. But he bogs me. And I make a huge mistake here because what I should have done before he untapped was swap the construct for the Dreadnought, and then he wouldn't be able to do anything. But I let him untap and play a land, and it was Gardens. And so now if I give him Dreadnought back with Welder in combat, which is what I was planning to do, was swap it in combat, he can make a copy of it, and then that's so annoying. I could swap that too, right? But then I can't get rid of the other construct. So just, again, pretty sloppy play. And I would have, like the Hushbringer replays the second one. So now I need to draw something and I just scoop it up because I'm at 1 and he's got those flying monsters and I couldn't find a Grindstone. Needed a Grindstone and I win there. But anyway, this is a bad boarding activity that I did here. So I brought in Magus and Needle. All of that's fine. That's all good. But I took out my Red Blasts, and I shouldn't have done that because Red Blast is my answer. I don't have Fiery Confluence. I don't have a way to answer Dreadnought except Defiler. But if they cheat Dreadnought in with Hushbringer or Torpor Orb, I don't have an answer to it. So, yeah, anyway, I get lucky and I do have Pyroblast in my hand. I've got a turn 1 Fable and a turn 2 Magus, which is pretty good. I've got a Bolt for the Hushbringer if they play that. So all that's good. And so I play the turn 1 Fable, which always I love. This is like one of my favorite openings. It's a very fair opening, but it gets you very far ahead. They Once Upon a Time, and this is where I'm just learning, right? Like my mistakes was they show Dreadnought, right? So I know Dreadnought's in their hand now, and turn 1 Ancient Tomb Torpor Orb, and so Dreadnought's coming next turn, right? Like I need a play to counter that Dreadnought or destroy it, and what basically that my out is I need to draw Painter, and then I at least have some possibility. And I do have, I miss my Fable trigger, but we undo it. And for whatever reason with my Fable trigger, I discard my Pyroblast and my Bolt. The Bolt, obviously, sure, but the Pyroblast, no, I need that. I wouldn't have found a Painter in that, right? But like you still need to play to your outs. And so now the line that I'm on is I've got Welder, so I can jam Magus and then play my Ancient Tomb, which is now red mana, and I can cast Welder. So that actually works a lot, much more nicely. But they don't have an artifact in the graveyard, so I'm sort of locked in that. Welder's not going to be able to do much for me. So they play Dreadnought. And yeah, what am I gonna do? I have to find something with value, and he's turned off my Engineer. So even if I find an Engineer, it does nothing because of Torpor Orb. Torpor Orb's not great against us, but it's good enough that it messes with some lines. We also might just jam a turn 1 Fury against you if you do that to us, and it doesn't stop Painter's Servant because Painter is an as it enters the battlefield, not when. My Kiki flips though, and he needled Welder, so now I can't even use the Welder line. So now I need to draw Painter and find one of my 2 remaining Red Blasts because I sided 3 of them out. I should have sided out the Bolts, and probably maybe like a Fable, or Fast Mana, because these are going to go long. So I probably should have boarded out 2 Bolts and 2 Guides. They're not going to have, or I wouldn't expect for them to have Null Rod. I think that's weird with diamonds. So yeah, I think that's the play, but they also needle my Kiki. So, yeah, and I'm at 4. So I don't even think I have any draws because I need 2 cards. I need Painter and Red Blast. And so I'm really stuck. For a second, I think about, because I had Engineer in my hand by this point, and I'm like, I can Engineer. And then I was like, wait a second, that doesn't do anything. So he's cut off enough of my outs, and so I have to scoop it up. So this kind of game, nice big lesson that when your opponent has big fat things that you can't easily get rid of, you need to really sit back on the Vindicate side of the deck, which is Painter Red Blast, is very, very valuable. And if your opponent has the Torpor Orb line, I get a little too comfy with how good Defiler is. And that also hurt me here because Defiler is, half of it is shut off with Torpor Orb, and Hushbringer completely shuts it down. So, yeah, make sure you play to your outs, sideboard properly, right? Like, these are all important things, and that's why it's important to get a lot of reps with the deck and why I enjoy jamming this deck relentlessly, because it's fun to play, it's competitive, but I also am learning a lot about future matchups, because if I don't do these games, I'm going to face them in like Eternal Weekend or some tournament, and I'm going to get blown out because I didn't have any familiarity with it. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed this video. There's more coming, 90s MTG, webcam stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching and take care. Bye.